And as it relates to Mr. Arnold, are there 4 calls that were pulled that you downloaded on State's Exhibit 590Y?
That sounds right, yeah.
And then as it relates to Mr. Kendrick, as we spoke to, earlier, are there 3 calls on 590Y as it relates to him?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think that all those numbers sound correct.
And when you, I guess, are listening to the phone calls on your computer, is the sound system a little better than what we have here in the great courtroom here in Fulton County?
Yes. So sometimes with jail calls, they've split the inmate side of the call. I don't know if that's what's happening here, but generally that's what happens. They split the inmate side of the call in one, like the right channel or left channel out, whichever one, and then the called party side and the other channel, so they're in stereo. And for whatever reason, the inmate channel is sometimes a lot lower than the called party channel. And it sounds like that may have been what was happening just then, because I too was having difficulty hearing.
And for the court, for counsel, for the jury, the state's going to play the rest of the calls at a different time when we can utilize a better sound system.
Okay, yeah, because
we were all struggling, I think.
I'm not sure anybody heard anything.
Now, Mr. Sprigg, I just want to ask you a couple questions about that call. As it relates to your investigation, was someone with the nickname Little Woody someone you investigated and was a part of this case?
Yes.
And did you hear his name during that call?
Yes.
And did you also hear Mr. Jackson reference doo-wop, nard, and yak?
I did. I heard that part, yeah.
And were those individuals that you also, through your investigation, I guess, were familiar with?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you tell the jurors the nickname Little Woody, who do you know that nickname to belong to?
Kenneth Copeland.
Okay. And when you received the case file from the Atlanta Police Department, were there a number of recorded statements or interviews inside of the file?
There was.
And when you received it and as you continued to work on the case, did you review those statements?
I did.
And did you receive a statement as it relates to Kenneth Copeland from June 10th of 2015?
I did.
And can you tell the jury, did you review it in its full?
I did.
Okay. Now, during that statement, does Mr. Copeland provide his phone number as well as the phone number for his girlfriend?
I believe so, yes.
And can you tell the jurors what is Mr. Copeland's girlfriend's name?
Deshawn Quarterman.
Okay. And after receiving through the interview as well as other means through your investigation, did you request the phone records and receive them for Kenneth Copeland?
Well, by request, I didn't order his phone records. Someone with the Atlanta Police Department did, but I did review them.
Okay. And is it something that you reviewed as a part of this case?
Yes.
And this was previously admitted.
You don't have a cigarette. Extra cigarettes. Out.
533 YA.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Now, can you tell the jury what was the phone number in the records that were related to the handset that was associated with Kenneth Copeland?
What was Kenneth Copeland's phone number?
Correct.
678-278-5991.
Okay. And after listening to the June 10th of 2015 statement with Mr. Copeland,
Hang on just a second. I know that stand isn't great, but I think the jurors in the back row are having a hard time seeing that.
Mr. Sprinkle, while Mr. Atkins is putting up the board, can you tell the jurors, did you review Mr. Copeland's phone records in light of the statement from June 10th of 2015 that you listened to?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, when did, activity on Mr. Copeland's phone or through his phone records, when did it begin in the early evening of June 10th of 2015?
Well, I guess it would depend on what you define as early evening. For me, I started inspecting the records as at 6:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, was that an incoming or outgoing call?
His girlfriend, Deshawn Quarterman, called him at 6:20.
Okay. And did Mr. Copeland?
Simply who called.
And we got all the numbers blasted up.
Sustained.
Okay. Did the handset of Mr. Copeland's girlfriend call the handset related or associated with Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
And did Mr. Copeland's telephone, the number that was associated with him, did he answer?
He did not at 6:20 p.m.
Okay. Can you tell the jurors when was the next, incoming or outgoing call that Mr. Copeland made and was connected or answered?
Well, his brother called him at 6:27 p.m.
Did the handset related to Mr. Copeland's brother call the handset related to Kenneth Copeland?
Yes.
Okay. And did Mr. Copeland's handset telephone that's associated with him, did he pick up?
Well, it appears that he did. It was a 24-second conversation.
Okay. And do you recall during the interview that Mr. Copeland did on June 10th of 2015 what he described as it related to his activity in the early evening?
He said that he was at his house at 178 Maury Avenue. He'd been taking a midday nap at the time.
Okay. And did he indicate during that interview that when he, woke up, he called the handset that was associated with his girlfriend, Miss Quarterman?
He did.
And is that consistent with what the cell phone records, the call logs for the handset, Mr. Copeland, that you reviewed?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'm going to object at this point. I believe this is cumulative to the information elicited from Mr. Burney by Mr. Atkins last week. The cell records, the calls, the timing of the calls.
So my response would be Mr. Burney, or Agent Burney, as he testified, he didn't review any sort of statements, so he was not in a position to talk about the consistency of the statement as it relates to the records, which was the necessity. The whole reason we needed to call Mr. Sprinkle back was due to that unfortunate scheduling issue.
All right. I'm going to.
And Your Honor, I believe those would be jurors. I don't believe it's Mr. Sprinkle's place to determine what is consistent.
Well, I'd also say this goes to Mr. Copeland was impeached on multiple occasions by multiple parties before this court and this jury, and this is a prior consistent statements and activity as it relates to his impeachment.
I'm going to overrule the objection.
You can answer the question. Let me ask it again.
Yes.
What Mr. Copeland, described during his interview as it relates to waking up and his phone activity to the detectives on June 10th of 2015, is that consistent with the activity that you reviewed and you've described here today as it relates to the handset of Mr. Copeland and his call log detail records.
We called the handset associated with Deshaun Quarterman at 6:58 p.m. So that was consistent with him talking about what he did after his midday nap.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, did you also, as a part of your investigation, plot different calls as it related to the call detail records that you received with Mr. Copeland?
I did.
Okay. If you also had an opportunity to review similar, I guess, plotting of Special Agent Bernie?
I did.
Okay. Now, during the interview that day on June 10th of 2015, do you recall where Mr. Copeland described, I guess, he went next as it relates to his activities that night?
He went to the Green Store, which is, I believe, at 322 Glen Street. That's what he said, yeah.
And in your review of Mr. Copeland's records, can you tell the jurors were his records consistent with him going to the Green Store shortly after he called his a handset related to or associated with Ms. Quarterman?
Mr. Sprinkle's expertise, and these are questions for Agent Bernie, which have been asked.
Okay, so if that may be true, if I'm understanding what it is that Mr. Sprinkle's testifying to.
I can lay a foundation.
Okay.
Mr. Sprinkle, do you utilize or do you review call detail records on a regular basis as a part of your job responsibilities and duties with the District Attorney's Office?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors how often do you do that?
Multiple times a week. I don't want to go so far as
Wait.
say every day. I'm sure there's days that I haven't, but it's thousands upon thousands of times, thousands of sets of phone record, at least over 1,500 sets of phone records, and that's a conservative estimate. So yeah, I look at phone records all the time and have been doing so since 2012.
And in the phone records, or in many of the phone records,
So
or the
you
call
the
detail
guy.
records that you receive, do they have longitude, latitude, or cell site location data related to the different phone calls within the call detail records?
Yes, depending on the type of phone logs, call detail records that I have or that they are, yes, they will sometimes have cell site location information.
And can you tell the jurors, as a part of your job responsibilities and duties with the District Attorney's Office, how often do you map or plot different calls as it relates to the cell site location data contained within the call detail records?
All the time. On
Another objection on foundation for this part of the testimony.
As it relates to what, I really need y'all to use the mics. All right, so,
I'm laying the foundation.
okay, he's in the midst of it.
So how often do you plot and map different call detail records, cell site location data?
very, very often. Maybe not on every single case, but on many, many, many cases. How often? I would say at least once a week. Again, that's a very, very conservative estimate, but most cases have cell phone records, and I will generally, if there are cell phone records, want to look at those to make sure that the data is what we believe it to be.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors a little bit about your experience in the sense of how many years have you been utilizing cell site location information to map or plot different sets of phone records and specific phone calls within different sets of records?
Since 2012.
Okay, so roughly how many years? We're looking at what, over 10?
Yes.
And within those 10 years, can you tell the jurors how many sets of phone records do you believe that you have mapped or plotted cell site location information related to call detail records?
That would be hundreds. I don't keep a tally. But the number of cases that I deal with a year since that time, it would just be in the hundreds. A lot of cases.
Okay. And in the cases that you have done what you just described, do you often work in tandem or in conjunction with different members of law enforcement, such as the Atlanta Police Department or other agencies within Fulton County?
Yes.
Okay. And have there been times that you also have worked with members of the FBI or different task forces as it relates to mapping and plotting call detail records?
Maybe like consulted with. Work would imply that I was like part of the team, or with respect to the FBI, that is. No, I mean, I've consulted with them.
Okay. So as it relates to this case, did you utilize cell site location information to map different calls for Kenneth Copeland after you listened to his recorded statement on June 10th of 2015?
I did.
And can you tell the jurors, as it relates to the mapping or the plotting that you did for Mr. Copeland's records, were they consistent at times with being near the Green store?
Yes.
Again, Your Honor, I'm going to cumulative. Agent Burney has already testified to these matters.
And my response is these questions will be brief, but again, Mr. Sprinkle's analysis is related to the statement that Mr. Copeland was impeached with during his testimony for the statement he gave on June 10th of 2015.
All right, and can you clarify whether whatever this analysis is based on Mr. Sprinkle's own plotting or whatever Mr. Burney had already done?
Yes. The plotting that I've been talking to you about as it relates to Mr. Copeland is this plotting or mapping that you did yourself.
Yes.
And upon doing the plotting or mapping yourself with the cell site location information, well, let's start with, can you tell the jurors what information, I guess, are you inputting or using in order to get specific plots for specific calls?
So basically what I do is I'll have the phone records. So I'll have a set of phone records, and there will be some cell site location information that's in the same row as the date and time and the phone number's called. And I'll use Google Earth. Sometimes some phone records are real easy. If they're from AT&T or T-Mobile, they'll just have the latitude and longitude of the tower actually in the records. Other phone companies, like Sprint at the time, or Verizon, they just put some sort of number that's unique to them. Like it's a number that identifies the tower for them. It will be like 14732 or something. That's by no means a lot. That was just a number I just came up with out of nowhere. But it will be some sort of number, and I'll have to cross-reference another spreadsheet where that spreadsheet will have the latitude and longitude. But long story short, though, I just take the latitude and longitude of the tower, I put it into Google Earth, and then I use a graphic plugin in Google Earth to create I get what I call a pie slice that represents the approximate area of coverage, or basically just points in the direction of the antenna or the azimuth of the tower.
Okay. That was a long story.
Wow.
So can you tell the jurors, in your review of the phone records, what time, if any, was Mr. Copeland's handset in the area of the Green store?
So his handset was consistent with.
Your review of Mr. Copeland's June 10th statement, did, I guess, the location, the McDonald's off of Cleveland Avenue, become a point of interest that was related to the investigation you were doing?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, in your review of did you review Mr. Copeland's call detail records and the cell site location information in regards to that interest point?
I did.
And can you tell the jurors, in your review, what time, if any, Mr. Copeland was in the area of, or consistent with being in the area of, the McDonald's off of Cleveland Avenue.
All right, so like I testified previously, his phone gets to the area or uses a tower in the area of the Green Store from 7:26, 7:27 p.m. It remained in that general area or tower until about 7:47. And then 7:49, it pinged off the tower that serviced the general area of the McDonald's at Old Hayville and Cleveland Avenue.
And you said 7:49.
That's correct.
As you continue to review the records, can you tell the jurors, after continuing to listen to Mr. Copeland's June 10th statement, did the Sky House located in Midtown become a point of interest relevant to the investigation that you were doing?
The Sky House condominiums at 1080 West Peachtree Street, yes.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors why or how did that location become a point of interest relevant to your investigation?
It was the location or a location that Jeffrey Williams resided.
And in the time that you were reviewing the records related to Mr. Copeland and reviewing the statement, can you tell the jurors at any point did Mr. Copeland reference during his statement that he communicated with a handset that would be associated with Mr. Garlington?
He did.
And can you tell the jurors, was that something that you attempted to locate within the call detail records of Mr. Copeland as you reviewed them?
I did. I didn't find a number that I could conclude was Mr. Garlington's, though if I remember correctly, I also said he contacted him via FaceTime, so I wouldn't be able to see those calls in call detail records anyway.
Okay, and that's something you talked about and mentioned as to why previously when you testified before this court and the jury, right?
I don't recall if I said that or not.
Okay. Now, can you tell the jurors, what you were able to determine, if anything, as it related to the call detail records being consistent with Mr. Copeland's handset being in the area of Sky House Midtown?
It was later that evening. His handset, from what I recall, from what I remember, it was after 11 p.m. when his handset utilized the tower that was near the Sky House. So it did utilize the tower at some point that serviced the area of the Sky House.
And can you tell the jurors, the Sky House Midtown, how was that building, related to or relevant to the investigation that you were doing as you continued to review the statement of Mr. Copeland and other materials that you received from the Atlanta Police Department?
That was the location that was said to be where Mr. Copeland and others converged later that evening on January 10th, 2015.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about other statements that you reviewed. Do you recall also reviewing the statement for Mr. Quindarius Zachary from August 5th of 2015?
I do.
And can you tell the jurors, did you listen to that statement, in its entirety or in full?
I did.
And do you recall that during that statement, did Mr. Zachary reference any, rental vehicles?
He did.
And can you tell the jurors a little bit about what Mr. Zachary said during that statement as it related to a rental vehicle?
From what I remember, that he mentioned there was an Infiniti that was involved, and they believed that the manager for Mr. Williams rented the Infiniti.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, after getting that information from the statement, did you request anything from any rental companies here in the city of Atlanta?
Yes.
Okay. And did you?
Well, let me. It's a small clarification. I requested information from rental companies, and I didn't just specify from their physical locations only in the city of Atlanta. I asked from the rental car companies that they give me records of any rental cars that were rented by a list of people during a time, regardless of where the location was.
Okay. And did you do that in relation to Mr. Jeffrey Williams?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, did you receive any information back as it related to any rental vehicles in the name of Mr. Williams?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to asked and answered previously.
I don't know if it has been with this witness, but it's certainly been established.
The judge is like, I don't remember. I'm asleep over
I
here.
can move on.
Judge is like, come on.
I want to show you what's been marked into evidence as State's Exhibit 335Y. And when it gets up there, page 7, 335Y. And as Mr. Atkins is getting to page 7, can you tell the jurors, do you recognize previously tendered and admitted State's Exhibit 335Y?
Okay, is the 335Y what's being displayed on these television sets behind me?
That's correct.
Yes, I recognize this.
What is State's Exhibit 335Y?
These are records that I received from Hertz Rent-A-Car.
Okay, and are these records? I guess who are these records? I guess related to and in reference to?
Jeffrey Williams.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This is cumulative, and it
Sustained.
has been asked and answered.
Well, my response is the specific information as it relates to what's inside State's Exhibit 335Y was not elicited from any witness as it relates to the trial.
Okay, if there's something new on this exhibit, then
I'll just cut to the chase. In State's Exhibit 335Y was a phone number that was associated with the rental for Mr. Jeffrey Williams located within.
There was a phone number located somewhere within there, yes.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors what that phone number was?
I don't recall. It's somewhere in the, I think, was it the one that ended in 3504 maybe? It should be in the business record, though.
And do you see it on page 7?
Yes, 3904, 504-975, 3904. That's right.
And can you tell the jurors, after, I guess, receiving this document and learning of this number, was a request made or a search warrant done for the records as it relates to Jeffrey Williams?
Yes.
Okay. And did you receive those records back related to the phone number associated with the handset of Mr. Williams?
Yes.
All right. Now I want to ask you a few questions about other sets of records that you reviewed in relation to the information you had received from Mr. Zachary and Mr. Copeland after reviewing their statements, okay?
Okay.
Did you request either through search warrant or subpoena the records for Justin Cobb?
I don't know if it was me that did that, but yeah, we did obtain the records for Justin Cobb.
Okay. And
Actually, no, I believe it was. I recall drafting a search warrant on that, so yes.
okay. As well as did you receive either whether it was by you or another member of law enforcement you were working in conjunction with the records for Mr. McMullins?
That McMullen was somebody with the Atlanta Police Department, but I did receive them.
And did you review them?
I did.
All right. And regardless of who requested them, did you also review the records for Kelvin Treadwell?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about specifically, did you review those records kind of how you've described today as it relates to January 10th of 2015?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about some of the activity that you saw as you did the review of the records. Specifically, can you tell the jurors, you talked about you received records from Mr. Bradford based on the phone number being a common number called by Mr. Zachary, Mr. Copeland, and Mr. Treadwell, I believe you said, correct?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors in reviewing the call detail records, did you review the records as it relates to the point of interest of the Texaco off of Cleveland Avenue?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, as you reviewed Mr. Bradford's records in relation to that Texaco, what you determined from your analysis?
What I determined from my analysis of Mr. Bradford's tower logs was that his handset utilized a tower that was in close proximity to that Texaco, and therefore 330 McDaniel Street, the incident location, between the hours of 7:11 p.m. to 7:19 p.m.
And I should have asked you this first, but as you were reviewing statements and call detail records, did you also receive and review any video surveillance?
I did.
And is that the surveillance that I think you briefly described previously as it relates to the Texaco off of Cleveland, as well as the barbershop not far from the Texaco?
Right, the barber shop, like between 60 and 100 yards, yes, away. Yeah, that too.
Okay. And I want to show you State's Exhibits 591. 591Y through 598Y. And prior to your testimony, have you had an opportunity to review those photographs?
I did.
And do those photographs contained in State's Exhibits 591Y through 598 fairly and accurately depict the Texaco from July 10th of 2015?
January 10th, 2015?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, they do. These are screenshots. It looks like they're screenshots I took, actually.
And, Your Honor, at this time, the state pretender was marked as State's Exhibits 591Y through 598Y.
Admitted.
And while we're at it, Mr. Sprinkle, previously admitted into evidence was 292YL through N. Do you also recognize those as screenshots from what you've described from the Texaco that you actually took?
Yes.
Now, can you describe for the jurors in State's Exhibit 591Y what we're looking at?
This is a screenshot taken from the video from the Texaco. It was a surveillance camera that captured the exterior of the Texaco station. This would be the gas pumps that were closest to 330 McDaniel Street. The timestamp in the lower on the video is 6:41 p.m. and 58 seconds. Literally, it's 18:41:58, but that's 24-hour time, so it's 6:41 p.m. and 58 seconds.
Okay. And is there a vehicle, or do you see the vehicle, I guess that's in the center of State's Exhibit 591Y?
Yes, I do.
And through, I guess, your investigation, can you tell the jurors what you're able to determine what type of vehicle that is? 2001
Pontiac Bonneville, gray in color.
And in conjunction with all the things that we've described that you've reviewed, the statements, the call detail records, the video surveillance, I know you briefly spoke about it, but did you also review different social media accounts and photographs as it relates to some of the individuals, specifically here, Mr. Bradford, that we've described previously?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors in your review of Mr. Bradford's social media and contained in previously admitted exhibits States Exhibits 360Y through 363Y, what you found in Mr. Bradford's social media that caught your attention.
He often posed in photos with a 2001 Pontiac Bonneville. He'd be leaning up against it, etc. Looked like it was just a car that he was with frequently.
Okay. And prior to your review of Mr. Bradford's social media account and seeing these photographs with him with standing next to or near a Pontiac, had the Pontiac that's contained in States Exhibit 591Y I guess been an integral part of your investigation at that point?
Well, not integral, no.
Okay. Was it something that you found or didn't find relevant until you reviewed Mr. Bradford's social media accounts?
Sustained. Can you?
Well, let me ask you this question. Just tell the jurors, after reviewing or finding these photographs of Mr. Bradford and the Pontiac, how you were able to use that to forward your investigation.
Okay, so I had the tower data for Mr. Bradford's phone that placed him in the area of the crime scene from 7:11 p.m. to 7:19 p.m. I had calls from the jail to Mr. Bradford. I also had these pictures from his social media that I found that showed him with a Pontiac Bonneville. Now, Bradford was not known. He was not in any of the documents that I obtained from the Atlanta Police Department. As far as I knew, he was unknown to the investigation entirely. So I was trying to figure out who this Mr. Bradford was. Why I had this data that this information was made it appear that he was somehow would at least know something about what I was looking into. And so when I went back and looked at the video and I saw this 2001 Pontiac Bonneville pull up to the gas pump, that's when it clicked. I started paying particular attention to the surveillance video from the Texaco station.
It's the same car.
And I want to show you, Mr. Atkins is going to put on the screen a States Exhibit.
Hey man, real quick, if you could like and subscribe, man, and if you want to help out the channel even more, and you like what you see and hear, hit the Cash App, man, 432 Jasper. Cash App 432 Jasper. Top donation goes up on the board, up on the screen.
States Exhibit 598Y. Can you describe to the jurors what they're looking at and the relevance it was to your part of the
that's the Bonneville.
So 598Y is a picture from Mr. Bradford's Instagram page, and it is one of a few photos that showed him next to a Pontiac Bonneville, like I testified to previously. And I obtained that photo around the time that I identified his phone number and got his phone records and tower usage data that placed him in the area of the crime scene, as I testified to previously.
And the photograph that's next to him standing next to the Pontiac. Can you describe to the jurors where that's from? There's two photos contained within. How are they relevant to each other?
Well, the one on the right is a still shot from the surveillance footage from the night of the murder, from the Texaco station. And
can you tell the jurors in your review of the video surveillance, you said in States Exhibit 591Y that Pontiac arrived to the Texaco at what time?
About 6:41 p.m.
And can you tell the jurors in your review of the surveillance how long in total was that Pontiac seen on the video surveillance?
If I may refer to my reports, I get the numbers.
If it will help refresh your recollection, yes, just look up when you're done.
So it was there. The Pontiac was in view of the surveillance cameras at the Texaco station when it pulled up into the pump at 6:41 p.m. and until it drove away from the station at 7:17 p.m.
So fair to say, reviewing your report helped refresh your recollection as to how long it was there?
Yes.
Great. And you said it was roughly 40 minutes?
Yeah, about that.
And can you tell the jurors in your review of Mr. Bradford's call detail records, was that consistent with him being, or were they consistent with him being in the area of the Texaco off of Cleveland Avenue for roughly 40 minutes?
Yeah, his phone traveled to the Texaco off of Cleveland Avenue after it departed the area, or not, excuse me, are you talking about the McDonald's?
No. So you just described to the jurors, let me rephrase my question. So that's you saw the Pontiac remain at the Texaco for roughly 40 minutes. You remember saying that?
Yes,
41 to, I think you believe, 7:17?
6:41 to 7:17, correct.
And can you tell the jurors in reviewing Mr. Bradford's call detail records and the activity on his phone during 6:11 and 7:17, were they consistent with him being in the area of the Texaco during that time period?
At the Texaco at Northside Drive and McDaniel Street, yes. His phone pinged in that area from 7:11 to 7:19. It utilized the tower, so it didn't ping at the tower that entire time. But the time frame that his phone did ping at the tower, off the tower and sector that serviced that general area, was encompassed, by the surveillance footage.
Let me ask you this question. Was his phone, or was there activity on his phone during that entire period of time, or were there times where his phone wasn't utilizing a tower?
His phone, it wasn't connected to the tower the entire time, as if it was like streaming data or something like that. Or if it was, I didn't get any records that indicated that. It was only used, it only connected to the tower to when it sending or receiving a phone call.
Okay. And as a part of your investigation, did you also review or look into the social media accounts, or the Twitter account for Mr. Kendrick?
Yes.
And could you tell the jurors in State's Exhibit I believe it's 524Y, was this a photograph that you located from the Twitter account of Mr. Kendrick? Once it gets up there.
Oh, there we go. It is. There's a, and I don't know that it's part of the exhibit, because I seem to remember this gray bar going across the screen with the other exhibits as well. Yeah, now it's moved. But yes, I do recognize that. That's an image from Mr. Kendrick's Twitter account.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, was there anything about the jacket that Mr. Kendrick is wearing in State's Exhibit 524Y that you, after seeing this and also reviewing the video surveillance, that was helpful to your investigation?
So, yeah, the interior surveillance from the Texaco, at 641, the Pontiac 2001 Bonneville pulls up to a pump, and the front seat passenger exits the vehicle and walks into the convenience store attached to the Texaco, and in so doing, came in very close proximity.
Miss Love and Woody was funny as hell.
To an interior surveillance camera. And so this footage revealed the outfit donned by the front seat passenger. And that image from the Twitter page that you just displayed on the monitor behind me, or the television behind me, that man, Mr. Kendrick from the Twitter page, was donning what appeared to be the same jacket as the man from the video, the surveillance video from the Texaco.
And is that what we're looking at? The comparison that you just described that you did in State's Exhibit 593Y?
That's yes.
And can you tell the jurors, the photograph, we're looking at it on the left-hand side from the convenience store. Can you tell the jurors the time period in which that photograph or that screenshot would have captured?
It was very shortly after the Pontiac Bonneville arrived on scene. If you would like the exact matter of fact, I've just looked at my report to refresh my recollection about this. It was actually at 6:42 p.m.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors in the photograph to the right from Mr. Kendrick's Twitter account what time that photo of Mr. Kendrick was posted and on what date?
It was posted on January 10th, 2015. As you can see there, because I testified about this previously, I moused over the date, and that made the time pop up, and the time is 7:35 p.m.
Now, as you continued to review the video surveillance, can you tell the jurors, did the individuals that you saw exit and enter the Pontiac later interact with another sedan?
Yes.
And in State's Exhibit 594Y. And here I thought the screenshots would be less difficult than the freezing video.
Objection, Your Honor. This is cumulative of prior testimony that we've had at least once, if not twice, in this case.
Any response?
I mean, there's been no...
Is this going to be a comparison?
Yes.
Okay, overruled.
Now, can you tell the jurors, were you able to, I guess using your number of years of experience, able to determine the type of vehicle in which we're seeing depicted in front of the Pontiac in the middle of the screen?
Volkswagen CC VR6 Sport.
Okay. And when you previously testified, you talked about someone you had, a name that you had come across during your investigation, Miss Ariel Bax?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, in getting her name, were you able to use public databases to determine any vehicles registered in her name?
Yes, I was.
And can you tell the jurors what type of vehicle was registered Ms. Bax's name during this time period of January 10th, 2015?
The Volkswagen CC VR6.
Okay. And in your review of the make and model and year that Ms. Bax had, was the vehicle consistent with what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 594Y?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, you also talked about previously an individual, Miss Kenya Morton.
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors why you looked into Miss Morton as it relates to this investigation?
I'll object to the reasoning behind what this witness is doing, otherwise...
Sustained. Can you rephrase?
Yes. In the phone calls that you reviewed and have described today from Mr. Kendrick, did Mr. Kendrick place any calls to Miss Morton?
Yes.
And through your listening of the calls and your investigation, were you able to determine how Mr. Kendrick and Miss Morton were associated or knew each other?
Romantically involved.
It's a review of phone calls that are in evidence.
And also speculation, Your Honor.
Sustained.
It's well, without telling me what the association was, were you able to see several calls between Miss Morton and Mr. Kendrick?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, in a one of the phone calls that you listened to and has been admitted into evidence as it relates to Mr. Arnold, did you hear Miss Morton in one of the phone calls?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors the date of the phone call in which you heard Miss Morton in the background?
January 10th, 2015,
What time?
7:42 p.m.
And that time in relation to how was that time, the 7:42 p.m. that you heard Miss Morton in the background, related to or the time in which
Something's
Mr.
up with the defense.
Donovan Thomas was shot and killed?
Well, the 911 call is placed
I feel like he might have went
contemporaneously
out
with
last
the
night or something.
shooting, and that
But he don't
911 call is
seem like
placed at
he's out.
7:22 p.m. So that
He's all the way
call was
coherent.
20 minutes after the 9.
Speculation, that's the foundation,
On the what?
the contemporaneous.
Sustained.
I guess I need clarity. I'm not certain it's the contemporaneous. I know what it
I
means.
don't know if he is able to testify from anything that it was contemporaneous with the murder. I think that's what the objection is to. Is that right? I mean, he can testify to what time the 911 call was.
I'll rephrase.
Sustained.
Agreed. I'll ask a different question. Mr. Sprinkle, you said the 911 call was at one time,
7:22 p.m.
and the call in which you heard Miss Morton's voice and reference to her name was at one time. What time?
7:42 p.m.
Okay. And during that same phone call, was there reference to Miss Ariel or Ari?
That I don't recall.
Okay. And well, let me ask you this question. Shortly after the Volkswagen in States Exhibit 494Y arrived at the gas station, can you tell the jurors, and previously admitted in, I believe they're before you, States Exhibits 292YL through 292N, can you tell the jurors what time another vehicle that you determined to be related to your investigation arrived at that same Texaco?
7:16 p.m.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, based on the statement of Quindarius Zachary, why that vehicle was of interest as you watched the video surveillance from the Texaco?
Because it was an Infiniti Q50.
Which is a fire whip. Quick as hell.
Now, can you tell the jurors during what time did that Infiniti arrive?
7:16 p.m.
Okay. And at the time that you reviewed the video surveillance, can you tell the jurors, did members from the Pontiac interact with the vehicle depicted in this state's exhibit?
Yeah, yes. The man that occupied the front passenger seat and then entered the store at 6:42 p.m. wearing the coat, he interacted with the person or persons occupying the Infiniti.
And I apologize for the record, that's 292YL. Now, Mr. Sprinkle, can you also describe for the jurors, did an individual get out of the rear passenger area of the Pontiac?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jurors I guess, can you explain to the jurors what you observed that person, I guess, do?
Objection, cumulative, best evidence.
Sustained.
Mr. Sprinkle, how long, based on your review of the video surveillance, did the Infiniti remain within the Texaco gas pump area?
About a minute, if that. It pulled in at 7:16 and pulled out at 7:17.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, is that what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 596Y?
Yes.
I'm gonna object. Can I maybe
You may.
Well, I'll ask you. I know what your team was expected to.
Alright, well, they're going to recess. And we're going to get out of here for now. I'll tap in with you guys when they pick this back up. So, yes, like and subscribe, man, if you want to help out more. Just hit the Cash App, 432 Jasper. I'm Jasper. This Hip Hop Heist. We're going to keep it rocking, man. Do what thou will. Be happy.